Hello and welcome to November's podcast, where we continue our journey for our metastatic breast cancer program with a focus on Thich Nhat Hanh's book, No Mud, No Lotus, The Art of Transforming Suffering. And we are now moving into the fourth mantra. And just a reminder, as Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us, that the 6 mantras are ways to express love and compassion. They can be very effective in transforming suffering and producing happiness in a relationship with a loved one, a friend, or a colleague. Children can practice them too. You may start by first practicing the 6 mantras with yourself, because you can only love and understand another when you have practiced love and understanding for yourself. A mantra is a magic formula, Thich Nhat Hanh says. Every time you pronounce a mantra, you can transform the situation right away. You don't have to wait. Learn it so you can recite it when the time is appropriate. What makes the mantra effective is your mindfulness and concentration. If you aren't mindful and concentrated when you recite the mantra, it won't work. We are all capable of being mindful and concentrated. So the fourth mantra that we'll be focusing on this month is I suffer, please help. This mantra is for you to practice when you yourself suffer and you believe the other person has caused your suffering. Go to that person with mindfulness and concentration and say the mantra. It may be a little bit difficult because you feel hurt. It takes a little training, but you can do it. So Thich Nhat Hanh says the fourth mantra is a little bit more difficult, especially when you have too much pride in you. The fourth mantra is for when you yourself suffer and you believe that the other person has caused your suffering. This happens from time to time. If it had been another person who had said or done that to you, you would have suffered less. But it was the person you love the most who said or did that. That's why you suffer very deeply. You may have the impulse to punish them because they have dared to make you suffer. When we suffer, we think that the other person has caused our suffering. They don't love me, so why do I love them? Our natural tendency is to want to punish the other person. And the way we do that is to show them that I can survive very well without you. This is an indirect way of saying, I don't need you. But that's not true love. Many of us have made that mistake and continue to make that mistake. Thich Nhat Hanh says that he also has made this mistake. But we learn. In fact, when we suffer, we do need the other person. That's the commitment we made in the beginning of our relationship. You have to be true and faithful to that commitment. When you suffer, you should tell them that you suffer and that you need their help. But we tend to do the opposite. We want to show them that we don't need them. We prefer to lock ourselves in our room and cry instead of asking for help. There is pride in you, but in love, there is no place for pride. This is why we need the fourth mantra. Darling, I suffer, please help. It's so simple, yet so difficult. But if you can bring yourself to pronounce the mantra, you will suffer less right away. I guarantee it. If the other person notices that something is wrong and asks, darling, are you suffering? And tries to comfort you, you may have the impulse to respond, suffer? Why should I suffer? But that's not true. You suffer deeply. If they try to come close and put their hand on your shoulder, you may want to say, leave me alone. Many of us commit this kind of mistake. The practice of the fourth mantra is the opposite. You have to recognize that you suffer. Darling, I suffer. I want you to know it. Please help. In fact, the formula is really a little bit longer. Darling, I suffer. I don't understand why you have said such a thing to me. I don't understand why you have done such a thing to me. I suffer. Please explain. I need your help. This is true love. But if you say, I'm not suffering, I don't need your help, that's not true love. Please write the mantra on a piece of paper the size of a credit card and put it in your wallet. The next time you suffer and you believe that he or she is the cause of your suffering, remember to take it out and read it, and you will know exactly what to do. According to this practice, you will have the right to suffer 24 hours, but not more. That's the deadline. Then you have to practice the fourth mantra. If you can't go to the person, you can use your phone, your computer, or you can write it down on a piece of paper and put it on their desk or somewhere they will see it. I'm sure that when you are able to bring yourself to write it down, you will suffer less right away. The mantra can be split into 3 parts. The first part is, darling, I suffer and I want you to know. That is sharing. You share your happiness and your suffering. Please explain to me why you did that to me, why you said that to me. I suffer. The second part is, I am doing my best. It means I am a practitioner of mindfulness, so when I get angry, I don't say or do anything that can cause damage to myself or to you. I am practicing mindful breathing, mindful walking, and looking deeply into my suffering to find out the root of my suffering. I believe that you have caused my suffering, but because I'm a practitioner, I know I shouldn't be too sure of that. I'm looking to see whether my suffering has come from a wrong perception on my part. Maybe you didn't mean to say or do that. Since I'm a practitioner, I'm now doing my best to practice looking deeply to recognize my anger and embrace it tenderly. I am doing my best is a kind of reminder, and it's also an invitation for the other person to do the same. When they get the message, they might think, oh, I didn't know they were suffering. What have I done? What have I said so that they suffer like that? Then both of you will be practicing deeply. And if one of you discovers the cause, that person should communicate right away and apologize for their unskillfulness so the other person doesn't have to continue to suffer. The second sentence invites both people to be aware of what is going on and to look deeply to see what is the real cause of the suffering. The third sentence is, please help. This part can be a little bit difficult, but it's very important. It takes some courage. When we love each other, we need each other, especially when we suffer. Your suffering is their suffering. Your happiness is their happiness. Looking deeply into the situation, we may have an insight as to how we can reconcile and reestablish harmony between us. The 3 sentences are, I suffer and I want you to know it. I'm doing my best. Please help. When you take the piece of paper from your wallet and read it, you will remember just what you need to do. And it's also an important reminder to remember that the roots of all of our suffering are interconnected. And when we can embrace our own pain and our own suffering, it gives others license to do the same also, so they in turn can accept and embrace their own pain and suffering. And we can focus on having love and compassion for ourselves and others who suffer, as ultimately the roots of all of our suffering is interconnected. So now I want to invite you to get ready for our practice focused on the 4th mantra. So wherever you are, just take a moment to come to a comfortable place. And I want you to draw one hand to the abdomen, one hand on the heart. So perhaps the right hand is coming to the abdomen. Left hand on the heart space, Anahata, heart chakra, fourth of the 7 energetic chakra systems in the body. Chakra in Sanskrit means wheel or energetic center. And the heart is the place of our love, compassion, and non-judgment for ourselves and others. So as you're doing this, just come to that comfortable seat or place of stillness, connecting with your breath and your body in this moment. And just collectively take a deep inhale and collectively exhale. And as you inhale, I want you to silently repeat to yourself, I suffer. And as you exhale, I want you to silently repeat to yourself, please help. On the inhale, I suffer. On the exhale, please help. The inhale, I suffer. The exhale, please help. So one more time. On the inhale, I suffer. And on the exhale, please help. And now release that mantra as we take a few moments of silence, absorbing our practice, focusing on embracing your suffering, and then focusing on inviting and accepting assistance to alleviate our suffering. When people around you are practicing compassion, they'll be wiser and happier, not only individually, but also as a group. Combining our experiences and insights leads to a collective insight that can be wiser than the sum of its part. You can live in such a way that shows compassion is possible in any situation. Set an example, even if it's a small one. Other people can learn from it. The best way for us to help others is to lessen their fear, craving, and violence, and to show them there is another way. If love has degenerated into hate, it's possible for you to turn the garbage of that hate into a kind of compost to nourish the flower of love to bloom again. I hope that you will be able to practice the 4th mantra throughout the month of November and join us for our Metastatic Breast Cancer Mindfulness Support Group, which will be happening in November. And I hope to see you all there. Stay safe and well.